Good morning, kitten. Yes, of course we're about to go live. That's the perfect time for you to jump on my desk. Good morning, QED coders. All right, we're waiting for Jan to join, and once he's here, let's go over the multi-tenant replicator. I'm pretty excited that the replicator is up and running at dev.janaka.com. Let me make sure that I have that ready to go. Oh yes, and it's doing this thing. It's doing this thing again. Let's see if we can get that fixed. All right. Good afternoon, Jan. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing fine. What about you?
Doing very well.
I saw on YouTube something about the replicator.
Yes, indeed. Yep, I've got the multi-tenant replicator up and running. And it is deployed at dev.janaka.com, which means that that little URL that you get, it actually works now.
Okay, let's see that.
All right.
Janaka.com. Okay, I still have 2 replicators from last time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, this service is in beta. Do not use the replicator in production, only for testing. Somebody's careful.
That is a very important change there.
Yeah. Okay, and then you can say publish to make it available online. Press publish, but request timeout. But perhaps that's because they are still old instances.
Right. Yes. No, actually that should work. Do you want to go ahead and share? Let's go ahead and take a look at this.
Yeah. Share, and then this one. I will make it a little bit smaller here. So it should be a reasonable. I just wanted to delete it, but let's say don't delete then.
Yeah.
So I still had, when I logged, I didn't have to log in. Apparently I was still logged in.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's got your name up there in the corner, so yeah.
Yeah. So I got 2 replicators.
Mm-hmm.
Then one of them I said publish, push this button.
Yep.
After a while I got a timeout.
Interesting. Okay.
I was immediately thinking about don't push the button twice.
This is safe to push the button as many times as you want. Yeah. It's not relying on the fact that the button is disabled. That's just a cue for you. But yeah, this won't be troubled at all by duplication. Okay, but yeah, you saw a little error message that popped up and said timeout.
Came here at the bottom left.
Okay, You know what? Let's take a look at the back end. Let's go ahead and go completely off script. This is cool. All right, let's make sure that I am logged into the portal. And let's get past anything that might be potentially doxing. Okay, and then I'll do a quick share. Let's move that over there. Okay, so that is sharing, and let's make sure that the stream is not completely messed up.
We could share simultaneously.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, so let me go back to that view so at least we can see us a little bit better on the stream. Okay, yeah. All right, so yeah, now we are looking at the application insights, and I see a couple of failed requests.
Yeah.
Let's see what this was all about. And come on, Azure. You can do it. Let's see. Actually, let me go back home and let's go to... see, I had created a dashboard. Actually, I don't remember if dashboards... Well, this will work. This will take me to the dashboard. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, interesting that I'm not seeing the replicators published, but there we go. We've got the failures. Just showing a 404. Those are like favicon and stuff like that. So this here, what is it trying to? Yeah, here it's trying to get empty dev. Yeah, so that should be a 404. I'm not sure who was trying to hit that homepage. Probably just something found that that URL and is trying to index it. But yeah, there's nothing at the homepage of the multi-tenant because the very next thing you have to supply is the tenant. So yeah, that one is a false error. Let's zoom in on just the recent stuff, and we've got this request. Yeah, but I'm not seeing any exceptions come out of that. But that's okay. What we can do is, let's go back to, yeah, and it's always hard to get out of the dashboard for some reason. Let's go back to, yeah, so that there's probably just those two 404s. Yeah. But we can go to the logs. Yeah. And then we can dig into traces. In fact, let me put the traces up here. And let's just narrow that time range right on down to the last 30 minutes. And we've got things that were happening there. Let's see if we can set the severity level where severity level is greater than 1. Filter out all that stuff there. Yeah, it didn't log anything other than just regular operations. That is very strange. Yeah. Well, let's test your replicator and see if it actually did create it. So I'm going to stop sharing what I've got and switch back to your stream. Okay. Now, in order to test this replicator, there's a couple of ways that we could do this. You can use, well, yeah, the two ways are both a little bit complicated, but if you've got an application, you could paste this into the application and start using the library against it. Or you can use Postman in order to try to...
That one is on a virtual machine. Wait, I'm gonna start that virtual machine. Yeah, it was just saved. I saved it just before starting the session here. Let's see, connect, and then this one move here. Log in.
Okay, and meanwhile, I will get the get Postman up and running for my replicator as well. So let me.
This so then I'm gonna stop sharing this one and then share the other one. So it's gonna be this one called live. Yeah, I still have Hitler open here. I'm gonna close that one. Yeah, a lot of things close. This one also close. Oh, why is this one opening? It's restarting VS Code, probably because it's installing some updates.
Oh goodness. Okay. Yeah, so while you're doing that, I've got Postman hitting the replicator that I've published. I'll show you this real quick. So share that screen. There you are. Okay. Yeah. So come up here, and we've got I've got a few replicators up there, so I'll just go up to this one. I already pushed the publish button. Actually, I think I pushed the publish button on all three of these. So we've got repdev.janaga.com. So when it's live and in production, I'm going to just call it rep. So it'll be the replicator endpoint, but rep dev. So we can copy that, and I'll just up here paste that in here, and we're going to hit the read endpoint and just send it this query right here, and nothing there. Okay, so this is the query that it's looking for blog posts. So let's go ahead and create some blog posts. So I'll come up to this one. We don't want to do localhost, so we want to do the published replicator. And what we're going to do here is we're going to send in some a blog post with some title changes. And this is the example that gives you a concurrent edit. So send that in. That's created. Come back here and read. And voila, we have one blog post with two titles. And the
so it is working.
Yeah, and the important thing is this is replicator 1, so we want it to be completely separate from replicator 2. So let's go to a different one. Let's go back to the replicators. We'll go to Monster Hotel Test. Copy that, and let's paste that in. Let's see what this one looks like. And that one is still empty. So it is distinct from that replicator. So no data leaking from one to the other. And then just to prove that that the second one is working as well, nothing up my sleeve, let's paste that one in. So for this one, I'm pasting a blog post with just one title, Multitenant Replicator. So send that in. And then when I read from 2, I get Multitenant Replicator. When I read from 1, I get the concurrent edit. So the replicators are completely isolated from one another, and yeah, no crosstalk.
Okay, that's good news. Let's find out whether that works over here.
Okay.
So I go. Why not? I go to the replicator here as well. If I go to the replicator inside the virtual machine, then you can see everything. Junaga.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sign in with GitHub here. Yeah. Let me look that up.
Yeah. Off screen.
I think. Right. Yeah. Okay. It's what I think. It must just be my email address, but that one is no problem. It's easy as long as you stayed signed in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then it just automatically redirects you and you're in.
Here we are. So he's finding the same 2 replicators.
Yep, that's good.
So let's take, which one did I use in the previous one? I don't know anymore. I think it was the first one, the test one. Let's have a look here. It says, you see, it says null.
Yeah, yeah.
So I copy this. I go to Postman. What do we have here? I have no. I have one here. That should work.
Yeah.
I think so. So this one. Yeah. So if I send this.
Okay, yeah. That replicator is up.
And then I go to the reads here. Looks good. That works.
Excellent.
I get it's not the values that you gave in.
No.
that would be amazing. if you got crosstalk between the accounts.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely a thing that I want to avoid.
So the replicators are working.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
and before you push publish, if you were to try that URL, you would get 404.
Okay. So if I go back to the other one I didn't publish then.
Mm-hmm.
See, the publish is still green.
Yeah.
So let's try it out. I copy that one. Go back to here. My right over there. Up. Send out. Then not found.
404. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, it gave you a bad request. Oh, I intended that to be a 404. Oh well.
So if I do publish now, would you like to make it online publish? And now it works.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was because I've got everything set to not keep running all the time, but once it's in production, it'll be set for running all the time. So shouldn't get that
it's
error.
Created.
Nice. Woohoo!
So that's working. And So what can we do here? We can edit. If you change from production to test or development, does it keep the data inside?
It does, yes. Yeah, this is just
Okay.
editing kind of the description of the replicator, and right now this description is only useful for you. It doesn't change the behavior of the replicator in any way.
And delete, it will delete the replicator or it will delete the content?
It will delete the replicator with all of its contents. Yeah, so it'll
Okay.
completely throw it away.
It might be useful to add that delete replicator with content, and perhaps just add a button, a button, delete content only.
Yeah. Yeah. As you know, I'm not a big fan of delete content, but so what's the use case that you see there?
Especially for testing. If you want to start all over again in a replicator, you can delete the replicator and create a new one also.
I would prefer that because then what you're going to do is you're going to copy a new URL and you're going to paste that URL, but you don't have any control over where the old URL is, or at least I don't. So as an application developer, you might have pushed something out to test flight and had that old URL in there. Maybe it all went all the way to production. I'm not sure, but yeah, delete content would mean that any other downstream replicator that has some cached content from the one upstream would now be inconsistent. It would have data that's not upstream, and it wouldn't know that it's been deleted. So yeah, I would prefer that you have to change the URL. That way, as you push that new URL, everything downstream realizes this is a completely new replicator. I make no assumptions.
Okay. But the moment that you delete the replicator, does that mean that all the content that is in downstream replicators will disappear as well?
No, that just means the downstream replicators will no longer be able to connect upstream, but their content will still be there.
Okay.
So yeah, you've pushed out a mobile application. People are caching things offline, and then you delete your production replicator, and then those users will just be severed. They'll be disconnected. They won't be able to sync up anymore, but they'll still have their data. So not an ideal situation, but but better than I believe the alternative of having it still being able to connect, but be completely out of sync. And then as you start filling the replicator back up with data, it's not going to know how to relate it to the data that's already on the user's device.
Okay. So actually, it's quite simple. Huh? It's quite easy, the user interface.
Yeah. So far, yeah. Yeah, what I intend to do with this user interface is to actually give you cards that that you can then copy code from. So the very first card that goes up there is going to be one that shows you how to put that URL into the .env file for React. So it'll have a little, here's your Janaga config.ts, and then here's your .env, and .env already has the URL in there. And then it says, okay, for the rest of it, go to the references. But yeah, that'll give you contextual help for exactly the kind of project that you're building. But yeah, the next card after that is a pretty serious one. That's going to be authentication. So authenticate with Apple. So you push the button on that, log into Apple, sets a few things up, and it says, okay, now here's some code for you to copy and paste into your React application that will allow it to authenticate with Apple.
And is there a use case to copy replicators?
There is, and the way that you would accomplish that is not yet supported, but to to either make one downstream of the other, or to give them some, to basically use the network of replicators to move the data from one to the other. So either have a common downstream or a common upstream, some way connect the graph, and then you get to decide exactly how the data flows from one to the other. So the rules for how data flows between replicators that are connected with one being upstream of the other is that everything that goes into the downstream replicator is pushed up to the upstream. Upstream doesn't have to express any interest. But to go the other direction, downstream gives it a specification and says, okay, set up some feeds, and it pulls that data. So the downstream gets a subset based on its interest. So yeah, you can set it up that way, and I will allow you to take an existing replicator and switch the upstream, so you can rearrange replicators. So if you want to just fill up an existing one, just say I'll take the old replicator and make this new one upstream, and then turn it on. The hose just opens and it just pushes everything up.
Which is in fact making a copy.
Yeah. Yeah. But that ends up being a merge, because meanwhile that new replicator, you could start using it for other things, and it could start accruing new stuff. So that would be that would be a great way to kind of take a snapshot and move things off to the side. Well, that wouldn't be exactly that use case, but yeah, if you wanted to take this one offline, put another one inline. Start pointing all your clients to this new one. Meanwhile, your clients are still pointed to the old one, and the old one's still live. But then you add the new one as upstream, and now all that data starts flowing into upstream. Plus the clients that have switched over are interacting with it. So that's one way to handle it. Another way to handle it is these two replicators are independent. Neither one's upstream of the other, but they have a common downstream. And then in that case, the downstream is it's expressing interest to both of them and saying, here's my specifications, give me some feeds. And so it's pulling the data from both of them. So presumably when you set this up, the data is only in one at that time, and it's not yet in the other. So even though it's pulling from both of them, effectively it's pulling from the one that has the data. And then because it landed here and the other one's upstream, it says, oh, I got to push it up there. And so that downstream ends up copying from one to the other. And so it copies only what it's interested in. And so that's really my preferred way to roll from one version to the next. Is let's have a client always point to two replicators. And then, move the old one. It's basically like a red-green thing. So you've got it pointing to red and green, and then red is Q1 and green is Q2. If you've got quarters as your periods, for example, and then when Q3 begins, you say, okay, I'm going to swap out red one or Q1, and now red is Q3, and so you're replicating between Q3 and Q2, and so both of those are available to you. You can still go back to Q2 data, and meanwhile Q3 is accumulating all your Q2 data, and then Q4 begins, and you swap out Q2 with Q4.
Okay, so you always keep the last 2 months online.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and you can manually do that with clicking around in this interface. Of course, at some point I will have an API that you could just call to set up replicators, set upstream, create a new one, grab the URL, do whatever you want with it.
With some drag and drop.
Yeah. Yeah, and command line tools to support that too, so you can make that part of an automated process. Yeah, and so it's probably going to offer 3 different ways to access that API. In addition to the portal, there will be the command line, there will be the REST API, and of course, there will be a Janaga model. So you could actually just write your automation using the Janaga client and issue facts that are basically commands that tell it to swap one for the other, that kind of thing. So, yep, you'll be able to set up those patterns. But for right now, the use case is focused on a front-end developer, particularly in this case a React developer, and they want to build an application, and they don't want to have to build an API or a database or host it themselves. So they just create React app, install a couple libraries, and then copy this URL into their .env file. And they're going.
And then the setup of different replicators. That's going to be something quite complicated because you have to be flexible.
Yeah. So it'll be complicated for the for the developer to kind of think through those those different patterns. And so I'll have documented patterns guidance at this point in the cycle. I'm sure that I'll also have some courses. So courses designed for application developer, just do this thing, and then courses designed for as an architect, how do you rearrange replicators? How do you think in replication rather than in terms of queues and microservices and that kind of thing?
Okay, so it's going to be a full offer.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You're already thinking about the marketing now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've got my notes are already all full of the at least the initial marketing plans, but long term. And part of that plan is a replicator that is not under a lot of load is going to be free. So as a and this is something that I ran into time and time again when buying services from other companies like Auth0. Auth0 has this free offering, so you can learn Auth0, but then it's not just limited in terms of the amount of traffic that it'll allow you to handle, but also in terms of the features. It's like, well, I want to test those features. I want MFA. But if it's not under a lot of load, then I'm not using it for production yet. So let me develop my stuff using all the features, and then all I need to do is say, okay, this replicator now I want this to be a production replicator, so I'll start paying for that one. But so that's the model that I'm going to go for. So so at some point, the toggle from dev to production will mean something, and it won't just be a label. But so one of the very next things that I'm going to put on this is to put the API management in front of the multi-tenant replicator, so that API management in Azure will be able to control the traffic. And so I just configure that such that for this particular replicator ID, for this path, basically, I'll allow this amount of traffic, throttle it down or cut it off completely at some point, and then for that URL, it's wide open because somebody's paying for that one.
Right. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like another service which I have in mind, which I'm actually using for some old Android development. It's a service that allows you to automatically install packages on customers' machines. Okay, up to 10 devices connected, it's free. And once you go over it, you pay a monthly fee.
Yeah, I like that model.
Yeah, You can test it, you can try it, and once you really need it for customer in production, just subscribe. You even don't have to restart from scratch. Everything
Right.
is configured.
Yeah.
No, which works quite well.
Yeah. Yeah. What I love about that model is it puts the developer in control. They don't have to call anybody to say, hey, I want to try this out. They don't have to have a 30-day limited trial, and they get to take their time developing their application. Yeah, and it's just much simpler that way. Get to build with all the features.
The only thing you have to be careful for is let people also, when they want to quit, don't make it too complicated.
Yes. Yes,
You
exactly.
you have to send a registered letter in 3 copies to that address, and after 3 weeks we will read it, and perhaps we will reply and cancel your subscription. That's putting people off, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so turning off a replicator will be just as easy as well. You could either do delete. Right now, I don't have the unpublish because that everything is insert when it goes into the multi-tenant replicator database. But yeah, there will be an unpublish, and it will have a warning associated with it saying, okay, sure, this is going to turn this off, especially if the production flag is set. I think I might say, all right, you have to move that production flag down before you can unpublish. I'm going to give you those those safety checks, that kind of thing. But yeah, it'll be completely automated either through the interface or through the API. You'll be able to turn these things on and off. The only thing that I think I would need to get involved with is restoring an accidentally deleted replicator. Although I could even automate that, because as you might expect, nothing is deleted from this database. But of course, at some point, I will start rolling the multi-tenant replicator database and archiving old replicators that people aren't using or have deleted. So it might be that oh goodness, I went through all of the checks to make sure that I didn't accidentally delete my production replicator, and then I deleted it, and I need it back. So yeah, the more I think about it, the more that I think that really should be an automated thing. You shouldn't have to wait for a person to to go into the database and flip it and say, okay, it's back. Yeah, I'll automate that too.
The chance that you delete something which is in production, yeah, depends. If you make it a production machine another color, like on servers, you make the background red when it's a production machine, and you keep it blue when it's a testing machine.
Yeah. We will definitely make sure that these are the things you're paying for. These are the things that your customers are probably paying you for. Otherwise, why are you paying me? So yeah, don't touch these. Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to do real quick is to go over the what that database looks like. So
This screen. I'm still screaming. Still streaming.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that should be just about right. So yeah, the tables that you see down here, fact type, public key, user, everything down there, that is that is the regular database.
Classic.
Yep. So one mechanism that people use in order to create a multi-tenant database is they add a tenant table, and then they have the tenant ID in every table. And I decided not to go that route. One of the advantages of doing things that way is that you can then add a where clause to every single query, and that can be automated in a couple of ways. Postgres has the capability of just implicitly adding that where clause every time you select from or join a table, and so it never even shows up in your SQL. Postgres does that behind the scenes, and that was tempting, but the problem is that that you now have an extra degree of freedom, and I don't like extra degrees of freedom. So it would be possible for the fact type table, for example, to have a tenant ID that's then when you get down to the fact table, this fact type that it refers to might be one tenant ID, but then if it's got another tenant ID, that might be a different one. So yeah, I don't like those degrees of freedom. Of course, if you're programmatically inserting things, you can write your program so that it doesn't set up that conflict, but then you have to prove that on every insert, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. And the second way to solve the problem would be to use something like Entity Framework, and then make your own little kind of middleware component, something that will insert that where clause for every select, or build things into a replicator, or not replicator, repository that does those things. But since this is a step removed from the application developer, I wasn't too concerned about having a tool automatically add those where clauses, because the only developer who could forget those where clauses is me, and I'll just make sure that I don't. And yeah, this table structure doesn't change very frequently. I mean, this is pretty much going to be it, and it satisfies all the applications that you might build on it. So yeah, the tenant ID is just at these top level tables, and then since these have an indirect foreign key relationship, they can see what tenant they are a part of. But now when you get down to this level, you do still have that degree of freedom. You have the possibility that this edge is going to connect a role from one tenant to a fact in another tenant, and you also have like or since an edge is a connection between two facts, the successor and the predecessor, this would actually be kind of the really difficult, troublesome one, is if this edge connected a fact from one tenant to a fact from another tenant. That would definitely be bad.
But how could you do that? Because they are in the same database, but you don't see the other facts. You only see your own structure. Yep, exactly.
So that's helped from from the outside. You cannot see these internal database IDs, so you never see this fact ID as an integer. Well, one caveat: you actually do see a fact ID as an integer, but you can't interpret that as a fact ID because it's part of the bookmark. So when you're talking to this replicator, it produced these particular fact IDs, and so you've got this bookmark, but then it's already sorted it. You can't really tell for sure which fact ID goes with which fact, and you can never act upon the facts by saying, oh, the fact with that ID. So yeah, they do become visible, but not in a way that you can exploit it. So every time you send new data to the replicator, you are starting by writing out fact types as strings, and so the very first thing that it does is it loads the fact type IDs for those particular strings, and then everything that continues from that point just has those cached fact type IDs. Mr. Biscuits wants to get out. There you go, sir. All right. So let's see if I've got that code. Yeah, this was the database. So yeah, here I'm creating the tenant table. So I just have the name, which is really just the 88 character hash code that I give you. And yeah, you don't get to set the name as a user. So I'm always going to generate a hash. And then yeah, fact type ID, or I'm sorry, tenant ID goes into fact type, and then from there down, it doesn't. But let's see if I can show the this would be in. Yeah, you know what? I don't think I have. I don't think I've done. Yeah, opened this project at all on this machine, but let's see if I've got our Janaga MT. No, I don't. Okay.
Janaga MT is 4.
That is the actual multi-tenant replicator.
Okay.
So GitHub repo clone Janaga / Janaga MT, and it is a private repo. So as part of this business plan, I do not intend to open source the multi-tenant replicator. I'm not going to open source something that another company like AWS would use to compete against me. So looking at Elasticsearch and saying, "Oh, you open source too much." That's how they got in trouble. So yeah, code Janaga MT. Bring up that code. So yeah, here is the Postgres store, and so this has got the additional stuff to look for the multi-tenant ID, or the tenant ID. The important thing is, yeah, I think we start here. Let's go ahead, and we've got the connection string. Yeah, Janaga multi-tenant create. Here we go. So, this is so far following a similar pattern to Janaga server create, but it flips things around quite significantly. So we've got the app use that takes the tenant ID, and so here we insert something into middleware that uses that tenant ID, and then sets up just the connection to that particular tenant. While it does that, it is actually creating a brand new instance of the store and the key store and all of the components that feed into that. So any of these components is free to do any caching that it needs to do, just like it does with the single tenant version, like Janaga server. But because we know that we have already at this point identified the tenant, and this particular instance of the store is going to be just for that tenant. And then it's going to stick that into the request as the multi-tenant router. So then as we go further down the line, it's not going to all be using the same router. Now it's going to be saying, okay, go, you use that router to finish the request. So then it takes that and it sticks it into this cache of router by tenant. So so next time through, it's going to have those cached components, which will have whatever caches they need. And one such cache is coming back to the Postgres store. One of those caches is the fact type map. So by the time it gets here, it's got a particular specification that it's trying to figure out what it means, or it's got a particular set of facts that it's trying to write. It's going to look in this fact type map to see if it already has those fact types. If not, it'll load those, and it will be using this particular tenant ID to constrain it. So so you still get the benefits of caching, but you have a unique instance of Postgres store, and therefore a unique fact type map for each tenant. Yeah. Oh yeah, and by the way, here's the not found error that I was expecting to return a 404 once this was caught. So have to figure out why that's...
That was not what we got back in Postman.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's supposed to be... like when we do a post, if we catch not found error, it's supposed to send a 404. Okay. I might have missed this down one path somewhere. But yeah, that's the multi-tenant database.
So actually, the database itself is not very more complicated than the initial standalone database. It's just the use of Azure and all the components around it that makes it complicated, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the next excuse me, the next thing to do with Azure is to turn on that API management, so that I can have Azure handle the throttling for me. It's like, okay, until you've paid for this, it's going to be throttled to this kind of load. Okay. That's it. You don't have to turn features on and off. You just adjust the throttling.
You will get a timeout from time to time.
Yeah.
Don't want to see the timeout? Pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're just doing testing, you probably shouldn't hit that level of load. I'll I'll do some testing to figure out what's a reasonable level of load to set that to.
I have to set it high enough, because if people are working over a satellite connection with high latency, they could get into trouble.
Yep. So yeah, that load is going to be it's going to be a combination of how many requests per minute and how much data is in the database. So yeah.
Perhaps also the number of replicators you combine.
Yeah. So I haven't figured out what the formula is for you pay a certain amount and then you get some replicators. I don't think I want it to be a pay per replicator, just linear. But that is an option as well. So yeah, you just when you go live, you pay for that one production replicator that supports your web application or your mobile application, and then if you start connecting replicators together in production, then you start paying more because you've got those different replicators that are interacting. But then again, I don't want to discourage somebody from connecting replicators together in order to achieve a result. I don't want them to say, well, I'm going to save some money by reusing this replicator, and kind of forcing them into a bad architecture. So yeah, need to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, every replicator adds a certain factor to the total consumption,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take the square root of the total.
Okay, yeah, something like that.
And then if it increases a lot, the price doesn't go up linearly.
Yeah, yeah. So it just kind of, yeah, flattens out a bit. Yeah, I like that idea. And I've already started this model as a kind of a multi-tenant shared model, as in terms of as a user when you create replicators, the model allows for there to be an organization that that you share those replicators with, and then you can invite other users into that organization. So that way you can have a whole group of people that are all working on like the test replicator or the production replicator. But then as an individual developer, they just make their own, and they don't make that part of the group. And now they can update their replicator and use that for their own local testing. And then once they deploy, they put that test replicator URL in there. And now
You mean
yeah.
every developer will have his own replicator?
Yeah.
And then when they want to combine it, they just put one upstream?
For that use case, I don't see the developer replicators being downstream of the test. You do want that test data to be completely isolated. But yeah, this tool gives you, every developer can just log in, start creating a replicator, start building, and they'll have their own isolated little set of data. But then when you go to deploy it to test, then without the organization idea, you would have one person that sets up the test replicator and then configures the pipeline to put that URL into the into the slot. But then now it's one person that's doing that. So the whole idea of the organization is now you should be able to invite people from your organization to manage your shared replicators and say, okay, so everybody else can configure test for authentication. They can send new authorization and distribution rules to those replicators. Kind of manage those together. That's a shared pool, and then but the data in that replicator is still separate from the individual developer replicators. So yeah, I think.
Go with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'll even have an extra check in there that when you hook a replicator up to another one, they have to be at the same level of environment. So you cannot make a development replicator downstream of a test replicator, because that seems like a mistake to me. And it's like, okay, if you want to, every level of environment should be completely isolated from the others. Don't pull production data back into test, because you try to do that, you're going to end up pushing test data into production. It's bound to happen. And yeah, you shouldn't have production data in test anyway.
Production is no good thing, but the other way around, it is useful.
Yeah, but dangerous. Yeah, I don't know if I'll completely disallow it, but I definitely do want to discourage that.
But you could allow a transfer of data in one direction.
Yeah. The problem is, so
You're not convinced.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. Yeah, upstream is just an automatic push. Everything goes upstream. Downstream is controlled by interest, but it's a pull in that regard, but the data is still flowing in that direction. I don't have any mechanism in Janaga core itself to say that I'm not going to allow downstream data. I mean, there's the distribution rules, but the distribution rules are based on the facts in the graph. They're not based on any attribute of the replicator itself. So yeah, that's currently my position is to disallow it, but I might be convinced otherwise.
Let's see what people need.
Yeah.
As long as nobody really asks for it and is willing to pay for it.
Yeah. And right now the target is a single front-end developer who needs just one replicator just to host their data, so they don't have to write a server and publish that.
That's going to be something nice.
Yeah.
But I think the user interface, which is so easy now, is rapidly gonna
it is
gonna be very complicated if you want to do all that configuration.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's going to have graphs in there, so you can actually see your replicator pointing up to another one. So yeah, it's gonna have some fun stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge to program.
Yeah, and it is going to be integrated with debugging tools, so you'll be able to right now you can use Postman to point to a replicator and run a read, get some data, but yeah, put that right into the the console. You can just write a query, or better yet, put the Monaco editor in there so that you can start typing code. You can type JavaScript or TypeScript code or .NET code in order to start querying the data in there. Yeah, why not? Give them all that power.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the first real applications working on it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so now I'm getting Janaga React updated so that I can actually start publishing some guidance. So hey, React developer, this is how you set things up. This is what the code looks like with Janaga as compared to like with Firebase, or if you were to do an API yourself, that kind of thing. Get that out there, get people to start using it, and then add on the authentication, the authorization, distribution. Once I've got those tools in there, and I give you a way to pay for it, and the API management. I mean, so it's like that close, except for those difficult problems. Then I'll be able to turn around and say, okay, now you can use it for production.
That's the 5-minute missing.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I've been quite busy with that Excel database.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think I'm almost there, so then I can put some more time again to Jinaga. Looking forward to that, to make it go faster a little bit, because I'm making no progress at all for the moment. But the last week was really, and the week before also, full time on that spreadsheet thing to get it finished.
Yeah, but hey, making people happy and providing value.
Yeah, but I have to think a little bit on the long term as well, and that's Jinaga, because I say long term, that should have been used for something that should have been delivered a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because for the moment they are still working with the old system. But what I'm afraid of is that one or the other day, with the updates of Android, at a certain moment it will not work anymore. And that I will have to come up with solutions on the old platform, which I don't want. I want to start with a new platform.
Yeah.
So I better speed up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and Yeah, at any time, I'll switch gears and focus on Janaga.net and help you out with the SQLite. I know that this is a thing that you want to do yourself so that you understand it, and it's not blocking me right now. I've got a lot to do with on the TypeScript side, but at any time you need that assistance. Yeah,
No,
we'll
but for the
switch
moment, I
gears.
think it's just I have to put time in it.
Hmm.
Have to free up some time to get back to it. Um, but if I'm blocked, I'm glad you're there.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, and I'll publish this diagram. I'll go ahead and take out the tenant table because the rest of it is exactly the set of tables you're working with. So if it helps to have that to look at while you're writing queries, I know that I like to look at diagrams while writing queries. Then
Yeah.
you'll have that.
All right. Good, Michael. Next Thursday.
Yes, indeed. Next Thursday.
Okay. See you then.
Yeah. See you then.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.